Well, good morning, everyone. I see it's just exactly 11 o'clock and we're about ready to get started with today's session. As I've said in the past, I want to thank the foundation, Jenna and Daniela. Daniela is the executive director of the foundation. They host these and all of us can help the foundation. It's a nonprofit organization, so think about joining or supporting in many different ways, even attending the various sessions they have. Their summer catalog will be out. There's a great deal going on, lots of fun, lots of educational activities, summer camp for the kids. They just opened the registration for that. So that's all good stuff. And again, we want to thank them for hosting these as they have for many years. I'm Rick Bushnell. I'm a past president of the foundation and the current chairman of the Environmental Stewardship Committee. And so I'm just welcoming everybody. And as we've said in the past, everything is connected. So our talk today with Angela Anderson is going to help underscore that. And she's going to tell us a lot about what's going on at the township's field station, which is on Osborne Avenue in Holgate. She'll tell you a lot more about that. And then also a really great initiative that's going on. It's called the Bay Island initiative to take care of the various islands in our bay, many of which, or some of which are, I guess, the property of Long Beach Township and others, all in the bay, with the expressed goal to provide greater resiliency to the various problems that we're facing, sea level rise and one thing or another. But by way of introduction of Angela, I want to tell you a little bit about her. She's a kayaker. She's a naturalist. She's delivered many, many, many talks about the ecosystem, everything from plants and animals to the birds to the things that live in the bay creatures and everything else. And she's been involved in our bay for a long, long time. She's very young, but she's been involved for a long time. Starting with, at least that I know of, what was the Barnegat Bay National Estuary Program, which is now called the Barnegat Bay Partnership, which is a federally funded organization, and we've had some talks about that. But that's kind of where I think I first ran into Angela a while ago, and she served on the board of directors at the foundation back when I was president, and devoted many, 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 many hours to running the foundation and then providing education to everybody, very much hands-on kinds of things. She was a writer for the Sandpaper, and she's been involved in so many different things that she earned that position of the sustainability director at Long Beach Township. And well, she would never brag on herself, but I'll brag on her. They are really, really lucky to have her. So without any further introduction, I'm going to turn it over to you, Angela. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Rick. Yep. So that was one of the way back in that day, I happened to sit next to Rick at an event. So here we are. And
several years later.
Right. The rest is history, so they say. Yeah, no, it is. It's what, this is sort of like the roots of it all, really just working through the LBI Foundation, back at that time when it was, everyone would say it was the Loveladies Arts Foundation. And we're like, no, there's a couple other words in there, the descriptive words of what the foundation is. And really working together with Rick and the team with the science committee, which is now called the Environment Committee there, putting the science back into the foundation up there. So I think you've probably heard, Ben Worst, again, another, Sleeves Up. I think he was last week. So what a wonderful series, and it's exciting to see how far it's come since its establishment of the Science Saturday series. So I'm happy to be here. Maybe many of you have seen me, known me, or visited me, but we'll learn more about everything together. So I'm going to do my best to share my screen again and see how we do. And let's see. I'm just trying to get to the beginning, so bear with me. Okay, we all set? Looks good. We're at the first slide and volume's good, Rick?
Yes, sounds great.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, great. And good morning, everybody. Getting in a little bit before the rain drops. I'm Angela Anderson. I'm the field station manager down here at the Long Beach Township Marine Education Field Station in Holgate. I've been with the town for about 15 years, and we've really evolved a lot and really have some good stuff doing. So really proud to talk about the initiatives that the township is doing. So a lot of people don't know that we're here because we are new. The township established this facility back in 2021. And you know, there's a whole story behind, you know, the establishment of it, but really the long story short is a conversation with Mayor Mancini sort of in the hallway back in, you know, 2016 or so, shortly after we established our open space trust through ballot, you know, it was kind of a off the cuff, like, hey, and what do you think about starting some kind of a education facility down in Holgate? So a couple of weeks later, he had a business plan on his desk. So you know, every success starts with an idea, and the success comes to fruition for people to share when you actually take the action, make it happen. Because a lot of people could talk about stuff, but in our town, we talk and we make it happen. So who couldn't envision when you see this, that we would establish a beautiful facility right there? So I always like to start with this slide because this was not my first introduction. You could see we were already moving the electric pole by then. But when I first went down to see this parcel, it looked a lot like this, and you got to have some vision, right? And you got to say, this is telling a lot of story as to what we're doing today. So this picture was about 2017, and this is the location of the old Buoy 77 Marina. So anybody that happens to have any old photos, please send them my way. I've been kind of putting that out there. Chuck, who used to live up the street and we were just talking about, he provided me one aerial picture, but this used to be that for any of the long timers that are on the call. So I'd like to say, you know, that old, you know, how it started, how it's going. So this was the sort of interim. We're like, okay, let's see if this is what the community, you know, wants. Let's see what we can do. So we did sort of a tester. We got a really beautiful, you know, trailer and set it up nice. And we tried it out for a summer, and it worked. People came, we set up stuff. We started to be able to crystallize what a summer program, you know, series could look like down here. Again, very much mirroring what's going on up at LBIF. I had all that experience together with Rick and the team up there. As much as we're one island, we all know how far Holgate is to Loveladies and back and forth. So it's sort of like that sister effort happening down here for folks that aren't willing to take the journey. So there was a lot of experience and knowledge that I was able to lend to say, yeah, this is going to work. So here it is. It's beautiful. It's sometimes I would say the only thing we don't like about it is the parking. So anyone that's been here, if we were in the room, I'd have you raise your hand and be like, yeah, I've had trouble parking there. Beautiful facility, lab space downstairs, meeting space upstairs. And we opened up June 2021. We have a lovely classroom upstairs, very fluid, anyone that's been here. So I'm going to lead you through this because I want anybody on here to be thinking of things that they think our community would like to experience through this facility. 65% capacity here. I'm talking from you, you know, to you from the room. You know, the smart board, everything moves. So there's nothing that's stagnant. So the fluidity of the space is what we really liked about it. So this is the upstairs portion of it, and that's where the porch was upstairs, fully ADA compliant, ramp, and all of that. So the other visioning we had, I think what I loved, Rick, was the very first thing in my bio, you said she's a kayaker. So there it is. Like Rick's a sailor. So most of his life's going to be within, you know, fair winds and following seas. For me, it's like, I looked across the street on that first picture to the left. I'm like, well, how am I going to get my kayak in the water? So my roots, long time ago when I was back in college, I did a lot of environmental mapping. And I looked at the maps and I realized that we owned the easement there. You can almost see in that picture to the right where that big tree is, and the path that the students are on, that was going to be, the road was going to continue, and this whole pocket marsh was going to be a development. So we asked our neighbor across the street if they could just scooch their trailers over about 10 feet. And then that's when we were able to put this beautiful public access path in that has been a dream. It's not much, we're keeping it very rugged. You can see one of the Stockton students there getting some data, tools together to go out to Clam Cove to do some studies. So we do all sorts of stuff out there, but you can see what it looked like to the left when we first took a look at it, and now we can see it's just a thin enough. You don't need much space, because what you're going to get into is where all the magic is, and that's out in our bay. So we just made it very smooth, no motorized, although I did come to work last summer one day and I looked out in the marsh there and I saw a big black SUV, and I say that because I have a big black SUV, and I saw it and he was sitting right there on the bottom picture. He was sitting right there in the marsh. So 1 out of 4 years isn't too bad when you say no motorized vehicles there. But you can see that pocket marsh there. It's beautiful. And that was going to be developed at one time, back in the day, but now that space is really utilized. So that's sort of looking west when you're going down the path there. We do a lot of turtle releases there, opportunities for water quality testing, flora, fauna. We've inventoried all of the species on the walk down to the bay there. It doesn't look like much, but you have over 40 species in there. Who knew, right? A student inventoried them for us. So it helps open up the world of education just a little bit more. We did put in our mega new bulkhead, because you saw that first picture. I'm not going to talk much about it, but we are putting in street end bulkheads, to stabilize our street ends in the township. And this street end is a little bit wonky. So the street end kind of just led right into our property here. So now we have this big, beautiful bulkhead that keeps the property stabilized and no washout. And we did keep the nice public access all along there. You can see where the benches are for the community to come down for sunsets. And then we use this north side, as you can see, Holgate Taxpayers Association, Rand on the microphone there, having their meeting, doing some open houses. So it's a really great community meeting space, and it's been well utilized right out of the gate. This is our lab space downstairs. Top left is that outside classroom underneath the beautiful porch that we have right there. We have the MATES students doing a lot of the turtle work there, doing the on hands-on education about BRDs, the bycatch reduction devices down there on the bottom slide. Top right, we have the students from Stockton University's Aquarium and Aquaculture Club. They established and maintain an oyster reef fish tank. It's a replica of the Tuckerton Research Reef out in our bay, where about 4 years of our recycled shell has gone. And this is on the bottom there, just a view out. So you can kind of see when you're walking out the lab, right to the waterfront there. So really great utilization of the various spaces with a nice shaded outside classroom underneath that front deck to the inner workings of the lab there. Up on the porch, we're really focusing on weather. We're trying to use every aspect of the facility, since we're on a small parcel, to, people that come here, magnificent, but to be able to widen out what is happening through technology, right? So we have the weather station there that we installed right away, and we're part of the watershed-wide Mesonet. So there's this, again, I think there's the active one up at the foundation up there, and there's various ones across the bay and up in the watershed. So we look at trending, and it's fun for people to say, hey, this is happening in Holgate. Go look at the Love Ladies one maybe at the same time and some of the Marsh camera out there and see the differences in just about a 12-mile space. So that's been utilized and integrated into a lot of programming here. We have a lot of meteorologists, climatologists, the students come, the Beach Haven school kids, the second graders came and they were waving at the camera because they had been following it, before they came here. One of our newest additions right along our bulkhead there is our new tide gauge. We just put it in, so I have the Will Go Online 2024. So it is online. Monmouth University Urban Coast Institute installed that as part of that Bay Island project that Rick was just talking about. We got this funded through a national grant to start doing Bay Island assessments. And these tide gauges give this real in-water data, again, comparative to other tide gauges around the watershed and, the historical data. I do understand that there may have been a NOAA tide gauge at this location back when Buoy 77 was here. So I'm trying to dig into some of the long time, history of that to really look where the data trends are going to be. So on that northern part of the property here, as soon as we moved in, if you guys know Michelle Budd or John Winnick, they were just standing at the door waiting with their shovel to get their hatchery in right away. To bring up our neighbor Chuck again, we had a neighbor up the street here, right when we were building the facility that always worked with the Terrapins. And Project Terrapin, we are flush with beautiful marsh here, just like up at the foundation. So anyone that's been up at the foundation or down here, between, May and August, you see this is where the Terrapin come. This is where they want to be. So we need to accommodate that because we have so much area that is not bulkheaded, right? So that's the key. So this was a prime location and we were primed for our neighbor retiring and coming in to create this hatchery for Project Terrapin and the MATES students. So they put this first hatchery in here, and anyone that's not familiar with it, when the females come up in the community and they lay their eggs maybe in not so great of a spot, Michelle works with the students and interns to relocate those eggs so that they're safe and very organized, very successful program, and we were happy to accommodate them. So we provided this outside space to them right out of the gate. And then on the right, the picture's a little crooked. They added what we call a new raised bed hatchery. That was a new style. The picture kind of is upside down, but you can see the original hatchery over there on the ground. And about 2 years ago, they built that raised bed one. And it was donated by a local family who in a state had a loved one that truly loved the program. So provided the funding for that hatchery here. So they've really been able to do some comparative analysis, which is everything that we're all about here at the facility, to be hands-on, real-time science. Like, you're not just coming here and learning it, you're interacting, you're bumping into the people doing the work, which is really, really cool. And then there's always a place for people to get their hands in and do it. What's happening over here in the outside classroom area is cage building. So the community comes, we get some, soda and cookies, play some music, and everybody just builds a bunch of the cages. They're various size gauge cages under Dr. Winnick's supervision. One's for the wild where the gauge is a little bit bigger, and one's for in the hatchery where the gauge is a little bit smaller for the turtles to get in and out of. So a lot of opportunities to be right in sync with, what's happening. We also offered the inside space, right? So when we looked at the lab, we're like, these are all the things we think, right? As we're planning this facility. So you got to kind of almost go by the square foot. Like, this is what we think everybody really wants this. So we provided this other corner. This is just to the right of where the Stockton tank is. And this is what we call the turtle corral. So this is where we have a little fenced off area. So Michelle has her area sort of blocked off. She has her special handling permit there, and she can record all of her data. So when they do come and get inspected, because it is a species of special concern in New Jersey, they know that we're serious about it. They're being handled properly. The education occurs, but she has a very secure place to do her research and her data, but plenty of hands-on opportunities, as you can see with the students gathering around here. The turtle releases are on various levels. You know, if we find a female in poor condition, we'll bring them here and we'll get them to the proper person to take care of them. You know, we'll do the hatchling releases, but the picture on the right is the yearlings, where we have Head Start programs with different schools around the state, where they it may be a clutch that overwintered or what, they'll keep them in their classroom for about a year, and then they'll come here, and we call them the Head Start yearlings. And early in the season, they'll come down here and we'll release them in the marsh very near to where they were found. So this is where we kind of shift gears a little bit and start to talk about some of the partner science. So what I just highlighted were some of sort of the baked in things that we do here, as far as this is a picture of the facility. These are the partners that are consistently utilizing the space and things like that. The programming is far and wide. This summer's programming will be out probably in May, and we run usually June through August. During this time, we started really working on some major grants, because here we are, this waterfront facility, you know, and the reason for that is to, of course, public access to the bay, of course, public education on the bay and the estuarine and all of that stuff, but also to make things happen in the bay, work with the partners that are doing that. And that is real science happening really with the universities that we have across the state. So what we have here is we have a picture of Kim McKenna, interim director down at Stockton University's Coastal Research Center, and her crew doing some initial field studies for the Bay Island work that Rick was mentioning that we do. I'll talk a little bit about the Bay Island Initiative. Where they are right here is Clam Cove Reserve, which is a 22-acre marsh just to the south of the field station. And that's where the kayak launch kind of connection came in, and that's where we go out and we kayak. But that is also a marsh that we are of special concern to us, because it is jointly owned by the township and the Ocean County Natural Land Trust. I forgot this slide probably should have been up there. We do have some pollinator planters that we put in here. And I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out to Sustainable Jersey. We've been a municipal, you know, certified member of Sustainable Jersey since its inception back in 2010. So they've consistently provided nice small grant funding to us. This one was Atlantic City Electric funding from 2 years ago. We built some pollinator planters here, and beautiful. We beautified the front and side. And you know, you just open the gate a little bit. So people are always leaving little gifts. I get little milkweed seeds. I get plants kind of left here. And this led us into a lot of other partnerships in the community of people that maybe, you know, they're just more interested in the plants or what they could do. And we do stuff with the Garden Club of Long Beach Island and that type of a thing. So the shell recycling program, I want to kind of put in here, it's sort of something that most of you might be familiar with already. You'll see these trucks around. This is not run directly through the field station, but it is run by Long Beach Township. We've been collecting shell from our area restaurants since 2017. We partnered with the Jetty Rock Foundation. They're our marketing and outreach partner. So this is our newer truck that was last couple of years of fundraising through the Oyster Celebration. And it's a little bit of a traveling billboard about the program. And we've been contributing to bay restoration projects, including oyster reef restoration with Tuckerton, the Tuckerton Research Reef with Stockton University, which is right here across the bay next to where the field station is, and this Bay Island shoreline restoration work. So the idea of what we're doing here at the field station in relation to this is we have Follow the Shell Fridays. That's one of our baked in programs here. So every Friday you can come down and learn all about this hands-on education on what does this mean. It means that we have local oysters that come out of the bay by our local farmers. They get eaten at our local restaurants. We pick up the shell, they cure, and then we utilize them back for our restoration work and restoration partners. One of the things we're going to do this summer is we're going to create what we're calling Habispat stations. I have a student who, this is her particular program, and she'll work on doing spat inventory. And spat is, you know, I'm sure Rick has told you all about what spat is, but for those that might not have heard, basically, you know, our oyster larvae is in the water for about 2 weeks and it needs a hard surface to set on. So more shells in the bay means more oysters in the bay. More oysters in the bay means a better bay, hence the whole cycle of life. So the little dots on the shell are what are going to be, what we're going to be looking for. One of the things for these HabiSpat programs. So when we do the cage building for the turtles, we're going to do some cage building for these HabiSpats and put shell in there, and very scientifically based, but very loosely based, get an understanding of where there's spat, what is the concentration, and what kind of biodiversity would we find around areas where we would get shell back in the bay, perhaps build these oyster reefs or the like, or similar structural things for shoreline stabilization. So something that we're trying to kind of mimic when we think about this, and we want to restore these marshes and we want to restore these marsh and shorelines. This is what we're kind of talking about. Naturally, up in the upper left, you're going to have what's called these ribbed mussels that are attached to the bottom of that Spartina grass there. And you can see some wild oysters growing on the ribbed mussels. So we know that particular area, we're like, you know, there's probably some real good spat in that water, and we will have a high success if we get some restoration going there, that we will have some recruitment there. So these are various ways that maybe we would look at marsh and marsh restoration, and how, you know, one of the other ways we may use shell successfully back in the bay is reefs, shoreline restoration. And so these are some of the ways that we would do, and we would explain this more on our Follow the Shell Fridays. This is a nice aerial view of that Clam Cove Reserve I was telling you about. So our facility is just to the left. Many of you may be familiar with this area. You can see the sandy area just sort of at the top of the photo there. That overwash area after Sandy storm came through, pushed the beach sand onto the marsh area. There was potential for development to occur on that sandy area. And long story short, the township applied our own open space trust funds in cost share with the Ocean County Natural Land Trust Fund. So we're 51% owner, Ocean County 49%. And so with any acquisition, right, that you make, you don't just buy something and call it a day. Becomes the property owner responsibility for, you know, keeping that beauty, keeping that integrity. So that's where a lot of our Bay Island concepts came from. We started saying, we're going to use our open space trust to create parks. We're going to create facilities to accommodate for our beach replenishment. But we're also going to look west. We're going to look to the Bay Islands, because we understand the value that the Bay Islands protect us. They create habitat for all the species that we love, and they're part of the bay. The bay is not just a big bunch of water. There are these beautiful, luscious green marsh islands that are really important. So how many are there? Who owns them all, and where can we fit ourselves in? So this happened to be like a launch pad for us to say, we're gonna buy this 22-acre marsh, and then we're gonna kind of keep looking west to see what we have out there. And this is Western Marsh Elder Island, just off of the Spray Beach section of township. And the center portion of this island was privately owned, and the outer wings of it were owned by Fish and Wildlife. So we approached the owner and said, hey, you know, this island's very important to protecting that section of Long Beach Township. Would you like to be a partner with us? Or are you willing to sell? And they were willing to sell. So we utilized the Open Space Trust funds, purchasing that. And now it's our number 2 priority in our Bay Island work for Bay Islands off of township that are protecting us. So in all of that, we're like, you have to create a partnership, and we have to create a logo, and we have to create an acronym, because that's the way it goes. You can't just do something without an acronym and a logo, right? So we always love that. So we established the Bay Island Initiative simply by a shared love for the Bay Islands. Who owns them all? Federal government, state government, municipal government, private. So you start to grow that partnership, be like, okay, so then what do we do? Who's managing these lands? A lot of times Nature Conservancy. A lot of the times the university is already studying these areas and the environs around them. So you start to create a coalition, right? By just asking questions and everyone having the shared focus. So we formed in 2020, and literally in this right now, our last meeting last week, March 2024, we celebrated our 4-year anniversary together. We've never missed a meeting in 4 years. We met 2 weeks before COVID came, and we have really come a long way. Having a regional and coordinated approach to assessing and knowing what we have helps us create a more holistic plan for the Bay. So again, on the acronyms, everybody again with the acronyms, we created the Bay Island Restoration Planner called the BURP. It's a database funded by the Nature Conservancy to Stockton University's Coastal Research Center to inventory the Bay Islands from the Metedeconk River up in Brick down through Absecon Bay. These are the islands we have inventoried in the red dots. You can get to this database through the Bay Islands, NewJerseyBayIslands.org. And I have that website again at my last slide for you guys. This tells us the story. And the story we want to know is how many Bay Islands are there? Even the sunken ones, how many were there? How have they been behaving for the last 40 years? This will all inform what ones perhaps have potential for restoration, for habitat enhancement, and for community resilience protection. So what we're doing with this is we're breaking it down by town. And this is sort of municipal specific flyers, trying to see like, all right, here township, here's how many islands off of you guys. There's small ones, there's sunken ones, there's big ones. Here's what's happened to them, how many acres have been lost since this year. And we want to go town by town with these flyers and engage with the municipal leadership of each of the towns that we share along the Bay to say, this would be really great to start utilizing in your local and municipal planning there. So you can't just have these ideas and acronyms and coalitions. You got to get money, right? So grant writing is one of my favorite pastimes, apparently, and getting these funds. So you start to get into some real money when you have the legitimacy of a coalition like the Bay Islands Initiative, and you have the very large vision. That's not just an idea, it's in keeping with what our municipal goals have been. It's in keeping with everything we've shown since Sandy, working on municipal resilience, putting an open space trust together, really kind of making the investment into this facility here really makes us shine when we go up for these federal funds. We built an entire facility around this, and it shows the dedication that we have to it and all of the partnerships that we've formed. All of this is relationship building, and without that it's hard to be successful. So luckily I like people and I like to talk, and I have that kind of vision to just sort of build those relationships. And I think that's where our municipality really stands out to these federally funded, these are big funds, and they recognize us here in Jersey. This is an emergency project we're going to be coming up with. Here's an aerial again of Clam Cove Reserve. And I put this slide in just today because I think I saw is Ray Bukowski going to be talking next week from New Jersey Resources. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay, so I just put this slide in because literally just last week, we just got some support from New Jersey Resources, and Ray Bukowski is an old friend of mine. We were in college together many, many, many years ago. So I've known him a long time. And I was excited when he was told me he was at New Jersey Natural Gas, which is now New Jersey Resources. So they just provided funding to us for that emergency stabilization, for that little spit right there. That's one little small piece of that other larger national grant I just showed you. We want to do like a full scale, research and design for Clam Cove and Marshelder. But this is going to just get us sort of in that little we've got to save some land there. We got to make sure that that little spit doesn't go. So Monmouth University Urban Coast Institute is accepting the funds on our behalf. And we're all going to work together with some of the teammates that we have on the Bay Island and our local municipal engineer. Stockton University will continue to do their data analysis before, during, and after. So that was a little plug for Ray there, and we're really pleased. So we haven't publicly announced this yet, but now here it is. One of the last kind of things that we're doing, many of you on here may know already, I'm looking at some of the names, Resilient New Jersey. We were chosen as one of the regional teams to do this sort of pilot regional resilience planning. You know, we've been doing stuff here on the island as the township, biggest town on the island, but we can't be resilient on a barrier island without all doing it together. We have 6 towns on the island, very unique, but very similar in the needs and the vulnerabilities that we have. We all share the same bridge. We all swim in the same water. You know, there's so many similarities. And in regional planning, you have to understand the individuality, and you have to honor that. So it's been a really great experience as far as learning, because that was why we were picked as one of the 4 regions. Is how do you do regional planning up in Middlesex County? How do you do regional planning on LBI? How do you do regional planning here? So you can see the 4 areas highlighted that were chosen, and we're somewhere in between, you know, 4, 5, and 6. And we are just kind of going to be relaunching this month, sort of this next phase reboot of the regional team of experts coming down and prioritizing each town to create a scope of work to be completed. You know, so for us, we want to focus on the shoreline behind our DPW. It is our critical facility. We have our DPW, we have our life-saving station there, and our beach patrol headquarters, and there's a privately owned set of islands there. And that whole area is in distress. So that's our #1 priority that we want to work on through Resilient New Jersey, is securing that critical infrastructure and engaging one of the privately owned owners of a Bay Island there. So that will be, you know, we're still in the development phases, but just kind of putting that in people's brain. This is where we're at with regional planning. Other towns may want to focus on the jetties or their you know, flooding or whatever it is. And then we can look at that individually for each town. And then what are some of the big things we might need to work on together regionally, which largely is going to be community engagement and things like that. So what are our 2024 plans coming through? We want to have more hands-on science and family experiences. We want to add more art and writing and performance. This is from feedback that we got after the last couple of years. And I highlight that any suggestions from the community, up to this point, we are largely what we think everybody wants. We said, you know, this is what we think is pretty cool. This is what we want to do. So we definitely want to have feedback where anyone would say, I have this person doing that, or this is a program that we did. We're very much open to suggestions. And you know, but we're doing tie-dyeing. We had live mermaids and pirates and all that kind of stuff. We have Shop Feeling Blue down there, Gianna doing her upcycling. So a lot of cool stuff, and we're definitely open to suggestions. So this is a beautiful last view of the sunset here that we get. You can see bayislands.org, and you have my email there, and I'm happy to take questions.
That was an awesome presentation. Thank you so much. I'll kick it off with a question.
Sure.
So I know y'all have been around for 4 years, so congratulations on the 4 years. Other than COVID, what's been the biggest surprise in your 4 years of having the organization?
Of having the facility here, the biggest surprise?
Yeah.
How quickly we were going to become very popular. You know, you usually feel like, oh, let's try, it's like we've been here forever. And, that kind of took my breath away. So, and that's exciting. and then you realize that you know, it's very difficult to get really good seasonal staff. Especially when you're at the end of the earth here, like I am, you know, you can't have somebody, you know, be like, yeah, you know, I love that stuff, but you know, if you're not right here in the summer to try to traverse here and there. So that challenge became immediate, staffing and that kind of a thing. So that really did take my breath away. I didn't, you know, I thought we would ease into it a little bit more, but you know, you turn the lights on and it's
And by the way, that the voice that you heard is Caroline Nickerson, and she's a colleague of Darlene Cavalier. Darlene is out gallivanting around Thailand, I think, doing some research out there, doing something. So I just wanted to introduce Caroline. She's a colleague in that SciStarter program, and some of you have heard us talk about this before, which is a terrific place to find projects to be able to use the information from these observations and get involved in citizen science. So I just wanted to explain who that voice was, because you're probably going to hear from her next week as well. And I just wanted to sort of welcome her and introduce her to everybody. And underscore, Caroline, are you aware of any of the SciStarter or other citizen science programs that would be using some of this data? Angela was talking about the weather station that's there now, so there'd be observations from that. Also, the tide gauge that's there. And by the way, Angela, we'd like to get those links, because yes, we do have a
me
Marsh
too.
Foundation. Oh yeah, okay.
It's that
But-
new.
Well, the point that Angela made that I think is really a good one is, if you have, when they're available, the links to the weather station and the Bay Cam from Holgate, then you've got the same things for the foundation. You can see the bay 12 miles apart and see these weather patterns move in and fronts and all this and that. But Carolyn, are you aware of any SciStarter programs or projects, or are there places where people could look?
Yeah, well, the cool thing about citizen science is there's so much of it, and so many projects are national and global. So I'm putting the link in the chat to our companion webpage for this. So, I mean, CocoRa's is a classic National Weather Service project where people take rain measurements, inches of rain from their rain gauges. But I actually have a follow-up question for Angela about Project Terrapin. Do you all consider it to be a citizen science project? Because I was looking it up before your presentation. I was like, we need to get this on SciStarter, but I'd love to hear if you consider Project Terrapin to be a citizen science project.
I would say that's a good question for Dr. Wennick and Michelle Budd, who lead the charge on that. It is, but they don't want anybody just thinking they can go and handle the turtles. It's very specific, very monitored, and there's the training that goes into it. So there is the opportunity for that. But I think it's the citizen awareness, right? And then that's why Terrapin Tuesdays, every Tuesday here, we have Terrapin Tuesday, where people can really, really get each of the steps and really understand it. They can look at the turtles. They can handle the turtles when we do, hatchlings, and understand that. So that's where we did the programming around it. But the citizen awareness piece of it is to understand this local species that is here, that lives exclusively in our bay all of its life, and why it has high concentrations and where, and how the citizens can be like, if you're in an area where this is making sure they have the right people to call that are fully trained to be able to handle the adults or the hatchlings or the eggs that are in a spot. So that's where the luck be had that we were able to really just come in and have this space here to create these new hatcheries. We're going to be building another one down off of Clam Cove, and I know that there's Kathy Lacey up on the north end of the island. So there are places to go, but people can come and learn about it. And then Michelle, like I said, she's very hesitant to have anybody feel confident and be handling the turtles independently.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a really good point. So citizen science, because it is, so for those who don't know, it's any way a member of the public meaningfully moves scientific research forward. So Angela made that distinction there in her remarks just now between like science education, so like learning about the terrapins, versus like actually doing the science yourself, like taking the data measurements or going out and making observations. So citizen science is when you go beyond science education to actually like generating new knowledge. And for a lot of citizen science projects, it's easy. Like, you know, you take inches of rainfall measurement. You don't really need any special training for that. You just have to follow the instructions. The Terrapin one, more intense, more sensitive, more special training. But
I
we have
think
all,
where it could be though, I think it's where they can, where if you see them now, you know, and that just cognitive awareness where you see it, you know who to call, you're informing. You are a part of it, right? So, you know, there's 3 layers there, you know, it's just like, hey, they exist and there's these people doing it. And now all of a sudden your eyes are open to know like it's May and I'm in an area where they are in high concentration on Long Beach Island, which is not everywhere. I've got to be aware of it. And it's my responsibility as someone who lives here to know that and to let people that come down here know that. That's where they're part of the citizen science. That's where they're furthering the education towards where the real science is by living that awareness. And you know, because there's you know, we've got signs everywhere, but people are sign blind. And it's the charge of the people that live here in the high concentration areas. And I think that they fit in right where you're saying.
yeah, and
I'm
please
gonna-
add the project to SciStarter because you can make all the different levels clear. Because there are some projects we have listed on the platform that are hyper local, like this one, and that have explanations of like different levels of training. And the thing about projects listed on SciStarter, and you guys will find that when you explore the page I put in chat, is you find the project on SciStarter, but you go somewhere else to do it. So we're the world's biggest citizen science organization, but we view ourselves as a bridge between you and the real science you can do. So like our job is to help more people find out about Project Terrapin and get involved at the level that makes sense to them, and in a safe way, of course, that is in line with all the different protocols. So super exciting, and I'll follow up about getting it on the platform, getting a profile listed so more people can find out about it. But really cool stuff. Thank you for the work you're doing.
I'm gonna chime in. This is one of the things about like SciStarter and others is so people don't necessarily to be part of John Winnick's Project Terrapin. However, something that is very valuable is observation, like the bird counts and one thing or another. Well, just the observation of where people saw turtles, saw diamondback terrapins all along either side of the bay, the western edge or the LBI edge. And so this is something I want to take up with John Winnick just to get an observation report. And I know he's got his kids and students and many of the local people involved in identifying and writing down when they saw what size terrapins. And this could just be something broader than that. I also noticed that in the chat, someone posted about Paddle for the Edge, which is a tremendous program available through Barnegat Light. And we might want to get that listed on the SciStarter page as well. And later on in the year, we will be talking about different citizen science programs and projects related to the things that we've been talking about as part of our session. So we will be doing that. Other comments or observations? Okay, well, so next week, as Angela mentioned, we will be having Ray Bukowski, and his talk is going to be about energy and different energy methods of creating energy, and he's well positioned to do that. And Ray, you may remember, some of you've heard him talk before. He did work for New Jersey DEP and has been very involved in the New Jersey environment for years that I've known him. I didn't know you went to school with him, Angela.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of us. You'd be surprised. It's
Yeah,
really like a little army.
Great guy, good speaker, very interactive, and so he'll be speaking next week. I again want to thank Angela for taking the time. This was just great. I'm so happy to have the update on the islands and all the things that are going on down at Holgate. And people look forward to these things throughout the season. And I really appreciate all that you've put into that, and the township and that the mayor has done to bring these things forward to the public. So that's all really good stuff.
My
All right,
pleasure.
Well, we'll see you all next week at 11 o'clock. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks again for
Bye.
having me. Have a nice day, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks, Rick.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Angela.
very well done. Thank you.
Bye, Angela.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Angela, Caroline, and Rick. Fantastic discussion. It was so great to get an insight. Rick, enjoy your day.